In the context of delivering direct payment schemes and rural development measures, my department is required to carry out on-the-spot inspections on a number of farms. These inspections address a range of issues in relation to land eligibility, scheme-specific eligibility and other EU regulatory requirements. The basis for these inspections is governed by EU legislation, and there are certain minimum numbers and types of inspections that must take place annually. These inspections are a necessary requirement in order to draw down approximately €1.5 billion of EU funds annually and to avoid EU disallowances. The legal case to which the Deputy refers has not yet reached its ultimate conclusion, and as the matter progresses, and I understand it will be finalised on, I think it's on the 28th of July, but as the matter progresses, I will be obtaining legal advice as appropriate on the wide range of complex legal issues involved. Accordingly, any issues arising as a result of a legal case can only be addressed following the completion of this legal case.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Kenny.
As the Minister will be aware, this case, which went through the courts on the 2nd of June, basically the situation is that the farmer in question had an appeal that, like many other farmers, when the department came out to, I suppose, look at the situation, they didn't fulfil the regulations, as was set out by the department, as set out by the EU. And if the farmer was in that situation, if the shoe was on the other foot and the farmer didn't fulfil the regulations, we know what would happen, you know. And certainly there is a case here for, as the court has already said, this farmer has to be, compensated for his losses in regard to that it wasn't dealt with properly. And there are hundreds of other farmers in a similar situation around the country who did not receive a control report, which is basically at the nub of this, that there was supposed to be a control report provided. And the situation which we find ourselves in now is that many of these farmers are looking at their situations and saying that they had a fair case that was not dealt with properly, that they didn't get the fair play that they felt they deserved, and now they want to know, can they too apply to get their money back and to be compensated for the loss they had? Because if the shoe was on the other foot, certainly the department will be doing so. So will the Minister here today commit that he will repay those farmers their losses as a result of that?
Thank you, Deputy. Minister, your response.
Deputy, I am acutely aware of the interest that the issue has raised with many farmers, not least farmers in my own constituency, who have spoken to me about the implications, they having been on the receiving end of department disallowances and fines and increased fines on review, etc. And I think the judgment goes to the heart of that process about the failure of the department to issue, I think, what's called a control report prior to imposing penalties. But before, we are in a position to conclude on what the spillover consequences are for any other individual farmer, we need to have the finality of the judge's decisions, and they will be, as I understand it, published on the 28th of July. But we do have the broad, substantial outline of it. I'm not going to hide behind the ultimate qualifications which he may make. Much of it will be commentary that will be in respect of costs, etc. But there are other issues that parties have been invited to make submissions on, which can be considered by the judge before he makes his final deliberations on the matter.
Thank you, Minister.
And I am acutely conscious of the fact that many farmers feel aggrieved by the process, and we will have to, whatever the consequence of the case, the department has to operate within the law. And if we require further clarification of the law, so be it. But we do await the final decisions, and I am acutely aware of the heightened level of interest in the farming community on the matter. But you will understand, Deputy, that until I have the ultimate interpretation of the judge's ruling, and in fact this afternoon legal advisors in my department are meeting with senior counsel for exploration of all of the consequences of this, I can't comment in any detail or indeed raise expectation of farmers who feel they may have been aggrieved by the very issues raised in the court case at this stage.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy Kenny.
I have to say it's disappointing, that we're in this situation. And I mean, if I was just looking at some of the things that the judge actually said, he said that the lack of respect for fair procedures was extended to the review when other penalties were imposed without any opportunity given to the applicant to make submissions in advance of the imposition of an extra penalty. So in other words, when they came out and done the review, and they had an appeal and they came out and looked at it secondly, not only did they uphold the first penalty, they imposed a second penalty on top of this farmer. And that's the situation for very many farmers around the country. And while I know you say farmers feel aggrieved, they also feel very vindicated by this case. And I think that's the other side of that argument. And I think, the department have a lot of questions to answer in regard to this. And we have always had a situation, and something that I've come across on many occasions, where, if the farmer is obliged to do something for the department to get grants. There's strict time limits set under. They must do it by a particular time. They must do it this way, that way, the other way. Every hurdle is set in their way. Yet, when the department is doing something, they seem to be able to just ride roughshod over everybody. So, you know, that sense of, I suppose, officialdom, always winning out, has been challenged and won in the court case on this particular occasion. And I think it would be, you know, due respect to the whole farming community for the Minister from the Government to just simply say, look, put the two hands up. The department were totally wrong in this case, and we're going to look after the farmer.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Minister.
The department has many responsibilities in this overall area. One is to secure the level of payments that we get on an annual basis from the Commission, 1.5 billion across the various schemes. And as you will be aware, Deputy, prior to your arrival here, but in the not too distant past, the state incurred fines of nearly €70 million for not adequately policing EU schemes, and which was a hit across all of the farming community. So whilst we must ensure fair procedures, we must also, you know, abide by the accountability process that we have in respect of the public funds that the EU gives us under the Common Agricultural Policy. But it must be done fairly, and I acknowledge the court's decision in this regard.